Alrighty, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about loops. We're just getting started with them here. So I'm going to do this one right here in the book. It's example number 8. It's asking you to create 10 text boxes and then use a loop to loop through all the values of these text boxes and then display the average. Now there's different ways to do this. I'm going to show you one. There are better dynamic ways of doing them. But we're just going to start out at the beginning here, and I'll show you just a simple way to do this, and then you can, be sure to answer any or ask any questions that you have. Just shoot me off an email or whatever. So, I'm going to start out here with my HTML page. I will create a little header here, just saying enter 10 numbers, please. Then I'll close out the H3. Now I'm just going to put input type equals text because that's what those are, and I'm going to say ID equals N1, and that's going to be for number 1. Okay, and then I want the next text box to be on the next page, so I'm going to put a break tag there, and that's really all I need to do for now. So I'm going to copy and paste this 9 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and I'm going to change these IDs to represent each individual number. Now, if you want to start counting from 0, you can. It doesn't matter. You can set up the loop to cycle through all of them. It really doesn't matter. But I'm going to start counting at 1, but you can do whatever you want. Then I'm going to throw in a button that'll say average, and this will be the button that actually gets the function to start. So I haven't written the function yet, but I will. And I'm going to run this in Chrome just to see what it looks like. So there we go. I have a place for all my numbers. That's what I want. And then I have a little button that I'll click on that'll run program. I'm going to throw another BR tag in there just so we can get a little bit of space. Alright, so we've set up the HTML. That's really all we're going to need to do there. So now I'm going to come up here to the head tag, and I'm going to start doing my JavaScript. So I'll throw in my script tag. Okay. And I'll come down here and I'll say on click. I'm going to set up the function that I'm going to call, and I'll call it average. That'll be the name of my function that I'll call when I hit the button. Okay. So in my script, I need some variables to hold some certain values, and we may kind of, I don't know how much in order we'll go here, but I'm going to need a variable that holds the total amount of all of these numbers, and I'm going to need, just a bunch of other things here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start out my loop. So I'm going to do a for loop. So remember, for loops are, you have to define where you're starting. You have to define what the condition is that needs to be false for the loop to stop. And you need to define what happens each time the loop happens. So I'm going to say for I equals 1 because I'm going to start at number 1. I'm not going to start at number 0. I'm going to start counting at 1, and you'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. So for I equals 1, I'm going to keep going until I is less than, I'm going to say a variable of n. Oh, no. Let's see. I equals 1. I'm going to keep going until I is less than, well, there's 10 things here. So I'll do 10 at first, and we'll see if that works. So I want this to loop through 10 times, right? So it goes through once, goes through twice, goes through until all of these numbers have been grabbed and calculated. Okay, and each time I go through, I'm going to add 1 to I. So as you can see, this isn't very dynamic in the fact where, like, if I were to add another text box, well, it would break it, and it wouldn't really break it. It would just make it not count all the text boxes. So I'd have to go in there and manipulate that. But there's ways with arrays and such that you can make it loop through the whole thing, but we just don't cover that in the course. But just so you know, there are ways out there if you want to go out there and take a look. Okay, so what I want to do next is I need to grab the values of each of these, right? So I got to go through and I'm going to set up a variable. I'll call it n is going to be equal to document.getElement by ID. We're going to grab the value. Now this is going to get this is probably one of the weirder parts that we do here. And also I do want to declare the variable up here. So I'm going to say var n equals 0. Basically what that's doing is just giving it a number type. It's saying, hey, n is equal to 0, therefore it's a number type variable. We're just going to be putting numbers inside of it. So n equals document.getElement by ID. Well, what are the IDs? The IDs are n1, n2, n3, and so forth. So every time we get the ID, n is always going to be there. So we're going to grab the element with the ID of n, but the problem is if I put in n1, every time I loop through, it's always going to be grabbing the value of n1, which we don't want. It'll go through 10 times, but it's only going to grab the value of n1 each time, which we don't want. So we need to use concatenation here. So we need to think, okay, what's the variable that's changing every time we go through the loop? It's I, right? The first time we run this, I is going to be equal to 1. We do our thing. I gets added 1 to it, so I would be 2. We come back out. Yep, 2 is still less than 10, so it runs again. It gets 1 added to it, so I is 3. It checks. Yep, 3 is still less than 10. Goes through it, gets at 1 added to it, and so forth. So we know that the first time we go through the loop, I is going to be 1. The second time it's going to be 2. Second time it's going to be 3 until this is false. So we can use I. So we can say, all right, the first time I go through, n is going to be equal to the value of the element with the ID of n1. Okay, I'm using concatenation here. I'm saying take the character of n and concatenate onto it whatever I is equal to. So the first time this goes through, n is going to be equal to the value of the element with the ID of n1. The next time it goes through, I is 2, so we're going to concatenate 2 to it. So n2, n3, and so forth. So every time we go through the loop, n is going to be equal to the value of n1 through 10, right? So that's what we're doing there. This isn't addition, this is concatenation. We're making this n1 goes through the second time, n2 goes through the third time, n3, and we're always going to be grabbing the variables of all of those. So that'll work. So the next thing we need to do is set up like a variable that's just containing the values here, that's going to have the sum, right? The total amount. So I can call this t, and I'm going to say plus equals n. We've done that before, and I'll define it up here as well, so just to make sure it's in the memory. So t starts out at 0, plus equals n. Well, what's n equal to? Well, n is equal to the value of n1. So t plus whatever we typed in for the first number is stored inside of t. Goes through the second time, gets the element with the ID of n2, right there. Grabs the value, and then it adds it into t. Well, let's say they put in 1 the first time, so t is 1. The second box they put in like 4, so it's going to add 4. So now it's t is 5. So remember, this just adds on to itself. So let's, just in case that didn't make sense, because it may not have, because I kind of explained it a little weird there. So let's say they entered 2 and then 3. So the first time it goes through, I is 1, right? So document.getElement by ID n1, and the value of it is 2. So t is 0, so t plus equals 2, so now t is 2. Okay, I gets 1 added to it, so I is 2 now. So n is going to be equal to whatever the element with n2 is, which is 3. So, well, t is 2 right now, plus equals 3, so now t is 5, because it's 2 plus 3. It's just, it used to be equal to 2, and it's just adding upon itself whatever n is equal to, which is 3. So now we got 5. So t is going to hold the total. Every time the loop goes through, we're just adding the value upon t, and t is just going to keep adding upon itself until we're done with the loop. Okay? So now we just need to set up another variable. I'll call it a for average. And I'm going to say a. Oh, wait. Yeah, a is going to be equal to, we need the average. Well, what is the average going to be? It's going to be t, because that's going to be the total divided by 10. Because there's 10 input boxes that we're using here. Now you can see I didn't put this in the loop because the loop is right here, these curly brackets. Because I don't want a being equal to t divided by 10 every time. I don't want to do this until the loop is done. Once the loop is done, then it can come out here, and then I want to calculate a, whatever a is. And then we just display it. So document.getElement by ID. We haven't created this yet. We'll create a div with output. Inner HTML is equal to a. All right. And we'll come down here and make that. So div ID equals output. Close that out. All right. So document.getElement by ID. Output, change the inner HTML to whatever a is equal to, because a is the average, which is t divided by 10. T is the total, because in the loop we're adding whatever n is equal to t each time. So remember, n is equal to all of these numbers here. So hopefully by the time this is done, it's going to be equal to the total. We'll divide it by 10, and that'll give us the average. So once we have the average here, then we can say, all right, now that we have the average, display whatever a equals to inside of the element with the ID of output, which is down there. Okay. Now this may or may not work. We'll see. But let's run it and let's take a look. So we'll save it. I'll just put 2s in all of them. Hopefully the average will come out to be 2. Oh, we have an issue, which is fine. This is what happens, right? So let's troubleshoot. So I'm going to hit F12, and we'll see what it's telling us. So come over here to the console, and it's saying average is not defined on 34, on basically on line 34. Well, there's a bunch of those because I hit average a bunch of times. Every time I hit it, see, it's giving me more. So it's saying average is not defined. So we can look over here on 34. Okay, so on click average. Okay. I never defined a function, right? So thank you, debugger. So function average. Okay, and I want all of this code to be contained in the function. So function average. Okay, the cool thing about Notepad++ is you can click on the brackets and it'll highlight the pair. It'll highlight the closing one. I'm clicking on the opening one here. It'll highlight the closing. I really like that. So I know that the opening bracket for the function's right there and the closing one is right there. Okay, so that's one issue. Let's see what else we get. So we'll hit run. Gonna hit F12 again. If you're on a Mac, it might be function F12, or you can just click here, go to more tools, and then go to developer tools, which you should already know. Here, I'm going to refresh the page just so we can get rid of all the other stuff that we had. Hit average. 22222. Something wrong there. What is going on? So it looks like it's not adding, right? It looks like that it just took how many twos? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 twos. So it looks like it's not really doing the math, right? It's treating these maybe as just strings. Yeah, because instead of adding them together, it's concatenating them together, which we don't want. So let's take a look. So it must be that it's not treating n as a number. So how do we fix that? I know we've talked about it in the course. Ooh, we need to parse int it. We need to say, take whatever that value is that we typed inside of here and treat it as a number, not a string. So we say parse int. And by the way, there's parse int and parse float. Parse int is for integers, basically just whole numbers. Parse float is for numbers with decimal values. So I guess we'll do a parse float just in case people put in like 2.5 or something, right? So we'll parse float that. Okay, so that hopefully is good. Let's see what it does now. We'll just put 2's in the whole time. 1.8. Now, isn't that interesting? What could be going on here? Well, let's take a look. So we have to think this through. Why would we be getting 1.8? Let's see, we have I equals 1, I is less than 10. Oh, wait a minute, less than 10. That means when I is 9, it runs, and then it turns to I is 10, but because 10 isn't less than 10, 10 is less than or equal to 10, but 10 is not less than 10, so it doesn't run that last time that we need it to. So it actually only runs 9 times. So it runs 9 times, which is, so this gives us 18, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and we divide that by 10, and that gives us 1.8. So, that's the problem. So it's only running 9 times. It's not running 10. So we have to say I is less than or equal to 10. So when I is 10, it still runs that last time and gives us what we need. So let's take a look. Ooh, there we go. Good stuff. Okay, so it's working. Now, if we wanted to, we could add a sentence, the average is, concatenate A onto it. Right, we can do that, which I'm sure some of you have already done. I'm actually going to put a BR down there so we'll have some space. Last thing I want to show you, the book really doesn't cover this, so I guess consider this bonus content. But what if, if I come over here and I do like 2 and I do 2 and I don't fill them all out, I get not a number. Because it's taking these empty boxes, it's trying to convert them to a number, but it can't. And so it just throws in this kind of error thing and saying, it's not a number, so it won't calculate everything. So we may want to have something in here that says, hey, if these are empty, like if people haven't typed anything in here, we may want to alert the user and say, hey, fill out all the boxes, please, kind of a thing, right? So we can come over here and set up an if statement inside of this loop. So every time the loop runs, we can say, well, if it's empty, then do something. Now in this case, because we're parse floating this, we're converting them to numbers. So the value of an empty box is NaN, which is not a number. That's what it stands for. So we can say something like, well, if, and there's this built-in function called isNa. So if you want more information on that, you can just Google the is NaN. And this is, like I said, a built-in method, built-in function in JavaScript that just knows, okay, I'm checking to see if n is not a number. And if it is, then we need to do something. If it is not a number, I know that sounds a little weird, then we're going to do what's inside the curly brackets. So this returns a true or false answer, basically. So if n is not a number, then we need to do something. Well, we need to alert or do some sort of message. I'm just going to say, please fill out all the boxes. Okay, and another thing, and I think the book did talk about this, is we don't want it to alert a bunch of times. So let's just kind of bring this up a little bit. So let's see what this does right here. So I'll miss the first one, I'll put in the second one. Okay, I'll do that here. So if I hit average, it says, oh, please fill out all the boxes. Okay, oh, please fill out all the boxes. It's telling me for this one too. Oh, please fill out all the other boxes for that one. Oh, and then it tells me for that one as well. So we don't want it to bug us, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. That's kind of annoying. So especially, just think about it. If like you accidentally didn't put in any, you hit that. Okay, now you have to hit OK for every box. It's kind of annoying. So this would be a great use in this case for break, right? Break just stops the loop. So if one of them are empty, it's going to say, hey, please fill out all the boxes, and then it's going to break the loop, and then it's just going to jump out of the loop. It's going to jump out of this for loop right here, and then it's going to continue to run the rest of the code. Okay. So I kind of go, all right, throw in some, please fill out all the boxes. Oh, wait, I don't think I saved it. Hold on. Save. Come back, refresh. All right, there we go. So it finds it once, it breaks out of the loop, it goes out, and then it says the average of what we have here. But we're still dividing that by 10. That's, that has an issue. So anyway, so that's just the beginning of how you can start checking to see if they've put things in or not. But anyways, yeah, so that's one way you could do this. There are a bunch of different ways. Like I said, when we get into arrays, every element in a form can be put in an array, and then you can loop through all the elements of the array and things like that. But again, that's milk before meat kind of a thing. All you need to pay attention to here is just, okay, what is this loop doing? What the heck is this doing, right? Remember, it's adding n and concatenating whatever I is equal to. So n1, n2, n3, because that's what we've named them here. The is NaN is just saying is n, a number. If it's not a number, then it returns true. And then we say, hey, fill out all the boxes, and then we break the loop. We stop the loop from running, then we come out and do the rest. So hope that helped with the loops here. Again, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help. Just shoot me off an email, and we'll figure out what we need to do to help you. So good luck with everything, and we'll talk to you later.